All right, thanks everybody. Thanks everybody for coming to the for coming out for this community meeting. Been doing this since the big change in structure that we had, the evolution from 2005.
I like the sound of that PA. It makes your voice sound very.
No, that's just my voice. That's just my voice. I'm Joe Provo, and the illustrious people up here are going to be speaking on some of the various topics that we have. Some reports to you all as a community, as our responsibility as your mixed bag of elected and appointed people, and try to engage in constructive dialogue about anything that's we need to talk about. And the goal is that we cover everything to everyone's satisfaction and yet still go make it for beverages and food. This is mildly awkward. There we go. As I said, I'm Joe. I'm going to be delivering the steering committee report, and Todd will be hitting the program committee report. Mailing list committee will be covered by Chris. Patrick will be talking about the marketing working group. Betty will be giving the merit report, and Steve's going to be firing us up for the election stuff in October with the charter changes discussion. And as a reminder, this is your meeting. Mics are always open, even though it says open discussion at the end, and we're trying to deliver these reports. If there's something that you need to call out on, jump up, say, hey, that's an issue. For the people that are unfamiliar with this whole process, the steering committee, we're the ones that get elected in October. Our badges all have blue color codes there. It's made up of these people. We have the chairs of the appointed committees that sit so that we try to keep as informed amongst ourselves about what everybody's working on, and we don't wind up in little silos. Some highlights since Santo Domingo. We did establish the marketing working group to explore some additional funding ideas, sponsorships, and Patrick's going to be providing a couple of statements on that later on. The network experiment policy, we had a constructive discussion out on NANOG futures. There were a couple more editorial tweaks to go out based on that, and it should be completed shortly after this meeting. The Postel Network Operator Scholarship, if you're not familiar with that, that is a scholarship that has been established through the aegis of an anonymous donor, whereby representative from Aaron and NANOG are empowered to basically get someone from anywhere in the world to attend the joint NANOG-Aaron meeting in October. We had RS filled in the blank here for me. We had over 70 applicants during the period that was that's specified, and RS as our half of the decision team will be making the recommendation to the SC. The 30th June meeting, and we'll be then awarding this grant in July 3rd, I think was the deadline. So, progress. Additional highlights, obviously, preparation for this meeting. We've had the first implementation of the press policy that we hashed out in 2008. Everyone on futures participated on that, and I hope everybody in this room is on futures and interested enough to participate there. We have two reporters who are attending this meeting from Wired and the Associated Press. Let's see. We've had some badge changes. We've implemented the ad hoc BOFs. There's a sign-up sheet down by registration whereby people who are interested in just having a topic that's not necessarily an official program element to be covered can sign up and get a room allocated. Kind of something that we haven't done in many years, that just the interest peaked to do it again. Also, no paper surveys. It's all, no more dead trees for the surveys. all online all the time, and we can tabulate the data better. So please, before you leave the conference, or even after you get home, because we're keeping it open after the conference, please do fill out the survey when you're done with the meeting. Work on future meetings. We are still seeking to maintain that 6-meeting, 18-month rolling window. And both Dearborn and Austin are on the calendar, and I hope they're on your calendars. In the interest of transparency, we've been publishing all of our meeting dates for the steering committee. I think you have the keys to be able to put the program committee data in there as well, so that anybody who is curious about when we're actually going to be meeting and discussing things, all the administrivia regarding milestones for the conference, and also for the for things like the Postel Scholarship and related deadlines have been getting stuffed in there. And of course, the usual fortnightly conference calls with minutes are published. New business, we have the 2009 elections preparation underway. The URL is there, usual place online. The MLC, PC, and SC members who are eligible to return will be asked to confirm that they wish to do so. And then the call for nominations will follow, and Steve is going to be handling the charter wrangling elements. And he'll speak a little bit about that shortly. We've been working to establish the what's being termed the Operator of Tomorrow partnership, where Merit and NANOG will be reaching out more into the educational community to try to get some additional young blood into the community, as it were. It's work in progress, and you'll be hearing more about that as it bakes further. And of course, we're going to be working on whatever you all say we should be working on, because that's why we're up here. The usual slide of mailing list information, such that it gets out there. You'll note that this go round we have included the NANOG marketing data. This is how to contact the marketing working group, volunteer to help, provide some input, so on and so forth. Nothing really unusual there. Any particular questions, concerns? Nobody's jumping up, nobody's saying, hey, you're going too fast, you caffeinated freak. Okay, Todd.
All right, so quick program committee report. Futura looks, I like Futura as a typeface, but it looks kind of chunky at the size. Anyway, we're gonna address the typeface issues as a sort of #1 priority in the near future. So I don't need to hear any complaints about that, although complaints about other things. The program committee are the group of people who solicit, recruit, help shape, and select the talks that you hear at the NANOG conferences. So that means if you look at the agenda and you think it sucks, that's probably our fault. And if you look at the agenda and you think it's awesome, then we have at least some share of the credit for that. So here are the people who are on the program committee. The program committee is the largest group of sort of elected or selected people in a NANOG governance, and that's because we have a lot of work to do. A lot of different people spend a lot of time recruiting talks, helping to shape them, finding out somebody who's got something interesting to say. Program committee members, I believe, have yellow badges. So if you have a yellow badge and you're not on the program committee, that means that something happened bad at registration, and maybe you should be on the program. I mean, it could be fate. I don't know. I don't want to comment on that. Well, what's that? You could have been drafted into the program committee and not noticed this. If that is true, please note that we have quite a few calls, and we'll be contacting you to let you know when those are. Can program committee members in the room stand up for just a second, just so somebody can cast an evil eye on you and find you? As I said, there's a lot of us. If you have a talk that you would like to give, thank you all. Or if you have some feedback you'd like, or you just have an idea for something that you'd like to see at the conference, come see one of the people you just saw stand up. We work pretty hard on this, and we want your feedback. Here's the mandatory slide on stats. We accepted right around 50% of all of the talks that we submitted. So You can look at that and say, if you submit a talk, there's 50% chance that it's not going to get through and be selected. Or you can say, like, for a conference that has competitive selection, that's actually a pretty easy conference to get a talk accepted. And I can tell you that the people most likely to get their talks accepted are people who have real-world experience actually doing something and something interesting to say about it. So we get a lot of talks from all of your marketing organizations, and sometimes that's not bad. Like, there are actually good technical talks coming out of some of your marketing organizations, but there's also a bunch of fluff too, and the fluff is probably not going to get, if we do our jobs, the fluff isn't going to get selected. So there were 4 talks withdrawn and 7 pending. Those are people who just never really got around to submitting slides or never really got around to, actually getting their talk completely submitted. And we didn't really even consider those. We really only declined 13 out of the 50 talks. Some of those were that the material we thought had been covered recently by some other talk or by a talk from similar people. Sometimes we thought it wasn't topical or it wasn't new. Sometimes we just thought it wasn't, either it was insufficiently technical for this audience or it wasn't technical in the right way for this audience. So sometimes we get those, and that's not bad. Some of them are fantastic talks for some other conference, and you just got to say, sorry. There are some changes coming up on the program committee I just wanted to let the community know about. Ren Provo, where's Ren? Ren, stand up. Ren Provo has been, you have to stand up now. You have to stand up. So, Ren is not actually having an identity crisis, and she is not all of those people. She's only one of those people. Ren Provo has been, they're paid, okay, so Ren has paid 20 to admit, no. So Ren has been the vice chair of the program committee and done the lion's share of the work for almost 2 years now. And Ren and I have jointly decided, in the interest of a smooth transition between the leadership of the PC, that we will be stepping down at this conference. So on Tuesday, the program committee will elect new leadership for the program committee. Yes, ma'am. Well, right. So we are both done with the PC, done with the program committee in October. And rather than just leave all at once, both the leadership and the program committee, we wanted to try to finagle a smooth transition. So Ren is also the main organizational representative of Comcast, who is sponsoring this NANOG. So a round of applause for Ren. So Ren's very busy. She's always very busy, but she's extra very busy for this conference. So I want...
Explain why people turn out, because there might be new people.
Oh, yeah. So the program committee can only serve 2-year terms, and you can only serve 2 of them before you have to go away and buzz off and do something else before you come back, because we want constant change. And actually, the steering committee has consistently turned people over at an even higher rate than that, because we want the program committee shapes the content of the conference in a really important way, and we don't want it to get too stodgy and too staid. So there's turnover, and after 4 years, you got to go. And probably sooner than that. And so Ren and I are going. Thanks, Mike. That's a good point. So the PC is open, active, and deep in talent. And there's a lot of people here who did a lot of work. And it's not really primarily about Ren or me. And there are new spots opening up in October. So if you think you can do a better job, because, right, look, I mean, we are actually a room that's like 83.6% full of egomaniacal freaks, right? So the reality is, if you're sitting in your chair, you probably think you can do a better job than we did. And if that's true, then step up to the plate and do a better job. I mean, I'd be happy to see it. That's fine. So consider serving. So the talk submission process, this is by way of introducing Dave Meyer. We have gotten a number of complaints, some of them legitimate and some of them not, but people who are a little bit confused about how do you submit a talk, how do you get it accepted, what are the steps, what's the process. People don't think that the requirements for good talks are always clear. So as the program committee, we put together the following presentation, how to successfully submit a NANOG talk. And Dave Meyer is going to give it. Thanks.
No.
No, this talk was not approved by the program committee. It was insufficiently detailed.
Yeah, really. First off, thanks, Todd. Hey, I think it's cool to be at NANOG. It's great to see all of you guys, but I think we really should give Todd and Ren a round of applause, because they've done a fantastic job just organizing NANOG and really making it happen, right? I mean, the program committee works hard, but I think without Todd's slave driving abilities and Ren's organizational skills, it would be a lot different. So, okay, so this is about how to give a talk at NANOG, and we'll go through this pretty quickly. And this covers panels, BOFs, and lightning talks, and all of that stuff. So my agenda for this is, what should be in a proposal, how does the program committee evaluate talks? What are the important dates? And any other questions you guys might have on this? One other thing is that, like Todd, I just want to reinforce what Todd said. If you have an idea for a talk, please submit it. I mean, there's a lot of good content out there, but we can always use people's insights and experiences to kind of inform the rest of the community. So basically, here it is in a nutshell. Basically, for a talk, what you have to do for your proposal is give us an abstract and at least an outline of the slides you plan to present. Part of the problem we have a lot of the time is people give us like a paragraph and no slides, and then we're trying to evaluate, well, what do we do? And we'd really like to have slides. And to be the really successful presenters actually get us enough content so we can actually figure out what they want to talk about. And that's really important because we want to keep the quality up. For panels, we've kind of gone a little bit softer. We generally will accept an abstract and a list of the panelists. Again, we're trying to get an idea of what you want to do, what the shape of it's going to be. You don't have to give us precise information, especially for a panel, because those come together a little bit less formally. And then in the case of these BOFs that are, I think Joe was talking about, it's kind of a new idea. They have very less formal requirements. Generally, signing up or an abstract or something like that is good enough. And then in the case of lightning talks, I don't know, how many people have submitted a talk or a lightning talk for NANOG out here?
Ever.
Mm-hmm. Ever. What is it, like 15%?
This side of the room.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird.
Yeah. So, if you do it, I encourage you to do it. But anyway, for lightning talks like BOFs, it's quite a bit less formal, and an abstract is generally sufficient. Let's see, my slide got broken. What is this? What kind of Mac is this? Okay, so we have this evaluation tool that I think was originally written by Steve and hacked on by Raz and others, perhaps. And basically what we do is we rate everything from 1 to 5. And I guess you can do none, which is not 0, it's just abstain. And it's kind of a nice tool. It allows us to write comments in it for us as PC members to kind of talk about what we thought was good or bad or important or not important with the talk. And then it also allows the PC member to kind of add some comments for the author. So in the event that you wanted to help the author improve the talk, that comes out with the acceptance or rejection notice. And during the PC members, during the meetings, we generally discuss the merits of the proposals pretty vigorously. We're really trying to get the best quality we can for the conference and get the best overall agenda. So a lot of times, sort of the flow of the entire conference is considered. So that's another thing that's kind of informal. But basically, the way it works out is talks with slides that get a mean rating of greater than 4, we just almost generally accept. And those with lower ratings are discussed and are accepted on an ad hoc basis depending on the structure of how the agenda is coming along and what it looks like. And we also have a way of conditionally accepting a talk if the content is interesting, but perhaps you didn't get the slides together. That happens a lot. So we have those kind of 3 categories we try to put things into. Well, if you get less than 3, you generally get rejected. Not always, but generally. And then we just follow a similar process for the BOFs, panels, and lightning talks. So basically, we have this tool. We rate the talks. We get together on a conference call. We look at the ratings, and then we select them, the ones we're going to do. And we try to, again, one thing that might not be clear is that we really try to make the entire agenda flow so that sometimes we wind up with a topical agenda and other times we don't. So there's a few important dates in all of this, and this is a little bit, these slides are old because Ren gave me an update to this one. Basically, we have a call for proposals or call for presentations we like to have it like 3 months before the meeting date because that gives you a lot of time. And then we'd like to get the initial proposals kind of right away after that. And again, since they don't have to be that detailed, if we get them very soon, then we can kind of start looking at what the agenda is going to look like. And it's also important if we can get a good handle on what kind of content we're going to have, especially if it's going to be topical oriented, like we might wind up with an IPv6 oriented one or something like that. We've had that happen. And then we try to notify people as early as possible when they're accepted, just so you can book your travel and do all the kind of logistical things you have to do. And then we like to get the draft agenda published as, it'd be great if we could get it out 2 months before, because then you could talk to your travel people about it and evaluate all of that stuff. So if we could stay in this flow, it would really be good. We haven't been able to really do that in my time this time around, but we make a pretty good effort. And generally, final speaker materials are required about 6 weeks before the meeting date. That's early, but we're trying to get on the sort of, you got to provide us with a professional talk. And a lot of conferences, I don't know how many people go and give talks at conferences, but 6 weeks isn't outrageous. And we get the agenda out a couple of months before the meeting again, so you can get your travel together. And then we generally open the lightning rounds, the lightning talks for the first round anyway, about a month before the meeting. So we have them all set up for the first ones anyway. And then there's a site here that where you can see where the call for presentations is on the NANOG site. And that's about it. Can I answer any questions for anybody on how this works? Pretty straightforward, eh? Oh, you got to slip some cash to Patrick, apparently. That's what he's telling me up here. A question?
Yes. I noticed on the agenda this time there is these things called tracks. Could you explain that, please?
Yeah, okay. So we try to do the track. What we were trying to do is we're trying to get this idea that there are topical things that are organized in a certain way. So we wanted to get all of things that are related into the same kind of flow without kind of doing multi-tracking, right, as if we could avoid it. So tracks are like what we used to call BOFs, more or less.
Yeah, and I have a comment on that. So we used to have things called BOFs that started off a little bit ad hoc and became excessively formal. And it's not bad, but we've done two things this time. One is we're for a group of breakout sessions that are somehow related, that are approved by the program committee in advance. We're going to start using the term track to refer to that. And we're going to go back to a more traditional meaning of birds of a feather session, which is what Dave was talking about, which is downstairs we have a board up. And this is incredibly primitive and it's experimental, but we're interested in seeing how you all respond to it. If you have an idea that you would just like to talk about in a room with similar people who are interested in that, we're going to provide the rooms and we're going to provide the basis for you guys to find each other. So there's a board downstairs. There's already a couple ideas up on it. Go look at it. If you're interested, sign up on it. We're going to have them out here eventually. And we're going to go through and pick the ones that are most popular and assign rooms for them. And on Tuesday evening, then they're going to have rooms. And you can go in and talk about whatever it is that are the 3 most popular ideas. And they'll be determined mostly by you. So unless there's something wildly inappropriate or silly, it's going to be whatever you guys want. And those we're going to go back to calling BOFs. So the tracks are a little bit more formal. And if that works out and people like it, we'll develop some more robust, slick, fancy systems around that. That'll include web voting and a distributed PKI system with, key recovery. And it's gonna have a lot of bells and whistles if you like it.
Others. We're between you guys and your drinks, so.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dave.
Mailing list, Chris.
Hi, I'm Chris Foster, and I'm going to be giving you your mailing list committee update. The current mailing list committee, Randy Epstein, myself, Sue Joyner, who Merritt puts on the committee, Simon Lyle, Tim Yoakum, and Steve Feldman helps out in between the mailing list committee and the steering committee. Unfortunately, other than Steve, I'm the only one here, so if you feel the need to raise any mailing list issues, you're going to have to track me down. So what we do, pretty simple. We've got an AUP. We're trying very hard to honor the spirit of the AUP, and we're trying not to enforce it to the letter. To a certain extent, the community does regulate itself, and we're trying to encourage all of you, when you're posting to the list, to try to keep everybody else on track. We really don't want to have our hands in there. Nobody likes it. It feels it's not good. We're not censors. So if you'd like to get details on the AUP or how much interference the mailing list committee is actually committing on the list, you can go to the URL on the screen there. We have all our statistics up there. Since the Dominican Republic, these are the numbers. We really do a lot less than a lot of people think we do. And that's the way we like it. A lot of people will raise a stink on NANOG futures whenever we do something, complaining that we're overactive, we're interfering, etc. I encourage you to also join NANOG futures and let us know what is actually working for you. We're the recipient of a lot of bad news, so it would be very, very helpful to hear some good news, and especially to get your ideas. One of the things that has come up, we've dabbled in thread moderation. It seems to be working for the most part. This keeps us from having to, for instance, in January we had 19 warnings and 5 reminders sent out. It's really not necessary when something is so massively off topic that it's filling the inbox of 10,000 subscribers. So we've just been putting a stop to threads that aren't really they're not legitimate threads in the sense of what the community is interested in. So I've got a couple pretty graphs for you. The first one, it looks pretty good on the screen. The top blue line there is the number of subscribers since the community has started taking care of itself on the mailing list. So you can see we've had a fairly steady rate of growth there. We've gone from 8,000 subscribers up to 10,000. So that's something to keep in mind when you post. You're hitting the inboxes of 10,000 people, and likely more than that, because there's a number of organizations that'll have addresses subscribed that's actually exploding out to multiple people. Down below, it's a little bit harder to see, but NANOG futures, we've had a steady increase in the number of subscribers to that. And if you're here, you should be on NANOG futures because you're obviously concerned about the future of NANOG. And then the number of posts, I'll show you the next slide, but the number of posts, the subscriber to the post ratio really hasn't changed. So as we've increased in subscribers, the posts have relatively increased as well. And I would again encourage you to contact us directly and give us any insight you might have into how we could do things better for you. Does anybody want to yell at me? Okay.
Thanks, Chris.
Hi everyone, my name is Patrick, and I'm the chairman of the marketing working group. Wrong meeting, sorry. The lights are bright. So I sent out an email to NANOG Futures. Raise your hand if you are not on NANOG Futures. Okay, everybody who's sitting next to one of those people, hit them. So I sent out an email to NANOG Futures explaining what the NANOG marketing group is. Essentially, NANOG is a nice little conference with a few hundred people that come and attend, and we're looking for ways to make the conference better. And as time goes on, things get more expensive, as everybody knows, and one of the ways we look at is, of course, to raise the fees, and we're trying not to do that. So what we're trying to do is find other ways to generate revenue to keep, good content, good conference, good everything going. But we in the NANOG Marketing Working Group are charged with doing that without changing the feel of the conference. We don't want to turn this into a trade show. We don't want to turn this into a marketing blitz, and we don't want to have nothing but advertisements and vendorware presentations and things like that. So that's the idea behind the Marketing Working Group, and hopefully we're successful. Because if not, then the fees might go up. So the active members are Sylvie Lapierre. I can't pronounce that. I hope she's not here. She'll throw something at me. She does a lot of the work setting up conference pages and things like that, and we must all thank her a great deal for it. Betty, who does a tremendous amount of work, along with Carol. Steve, Tom, and of course me, who does practically nothing, although I'm technically the chair. I tried really hard to give that away, and nobody wanted it. So, first of all, we'd like to propose a possible new name. We've asked for people to help with the marketing group, and 3 people volunteer to join. That was it, 3 out of the 10,000 people in NANOG. So we think it's possible that people are allergic, and I mean that in the technical sense. I mean they break out in hives and start sneezing when they think about marketing. So we're trying to change the name because it's not marketing per se. I mean, it's kind of marketing, but then what really isn't? So Sylvie suggested possibly NANOG sponsorship, and I'm opening it up to you guys. If somebody suggest a better name, and of course, if you suggest something, we will ask you to join the group too. So don't let that stop you from suggesting a name, because you don't have to join the group. The group is relatively new, but we've done a few things. Hopefully, everybody noticed the new lanyards, and we should all thank Tom Daly for, putting his name on the back of the very cool RIPE-inspired agenda that goes in the back of your name tag. Has everybody seen that? Anybody surprised by this? Okay. So this is the kind of thing, is everybody awake? Is there anybody out there? This is the kind of thing that we're trying to think of, like little things that actually help the conference. Yes, it's got his name on it, and yes, he paid some money for it, but it still helps the conference, and we don't think that this, his name being on the back of the agenda really bothered anybody. But it was a way to get some more revenue into NANOG and not bother the attendees or, be too in your face about the fact that it's a sponsorship deal. We're also looking at low-cost sponsorship deals. We noticed that many of the items that NANOG in the past has suggested are thousands and thousands of dollars. And there's some people that may want to help contribute at a lower end, so we're looking for some ways to do that. We changed the web page, and there were actually a few other things here, but I sent it out to the marketing group, and nobody replied with anything, so I never updated the slide. But if you notice anything new, that was all us. We did it all, if it was good. If not, then, I don't know, Joe or Chris or somebody did it. Wendy did it, yeah. Who is she? Did I skip a slide? There was another slide in here. I don't know if I deleted it or if it got lost in the shuffle. We have some new ideas for NANOGs coming up. And instead of boring you all with them, what I'm going to say is if you guys have any ideas of ways that we can make NANOG better and get some more sponsorship deals in, then you should email the sponsorship group. And, of course, we're going to ask you to join the group, in which case you can just say no, but still mail the ideas in. So call went out for volunteers. This is where I said, 3 people volunteered, and by the way, that's my fault that I haven't gotten back to all of them, so I'm sorry if you're sitting in this room going, I already volunteered. But if you haven't volunteered, now is the time. Who wants to help? Raise your hand. No, really. Oh my God, Martin wants to. Yes. Are you guys really going to let Martin Levy put you to shame? I'm just wondering.
The answer is yes, clearly.
Well, one Martin's worth like 3 me's, so.
Yes. Hit him. Okay, now there's ideas for NANOG 47. And that's it, merit update. Any last questions? Well, actually, I only had one on the slide. We have a demo room. There's actually several ideas. The working group shockingly suffers from the fact that we all have day jobs and we're all very busy, as you should well know. Just a little bit. And one of the things that we thought about was we have the beer and gear where 8 or 10 or 45 vendors come in and they present gear and you get to look at them for 2 hours or something like that. Or maybe it's 3, I forget. And what we thought about is creating a room off to the side where they could set up their gear and you could go in and get one-on-one or see just their gear, and that would be available during, a large portion of the conference, whether that's like the whole thing or maybe on Monday or, whatever. And this would be, of course, a more expensive sponsorship deal, and it would be not in your face because it's not sitting up here in front of the plenary or anything like that. But a lot of people want to go in and put hands on the equipment and, talk to vendors in great detail when they have real technicians there, their highest clued people and stuff like that. So it seemed like a good idea. And we actually tried to do that for this conference, but we just couldn't get it ready in time, so we're going to try that for next. There are other ideas, too. If you guys have any, please forward yours. Uh-oh, Bill. Oh, my God, an idea.
No, I didn't have an idea, Patrick, but I was kind of curious if you could just wax poetic for a minute or two about what you think NANOG ought to try and be. I mean, if you're looking for more sponsorship opportunities, but you've created a wall that says we don't want this to become a commercial trade show, then maybe you have an idea of what it should become that's not a commercial trade show. For example, if you believe you're going to have a demo room, maybe you want to demonstrate interoperability like the old interops used to be, or maybe you want to migrate towards more of an operational think tank type of thing. What are the sort of directions that you're thinking you'd like to direct NANOG to go in, and then you can market towards that direction?
These are all very good ideas, but that's not for the working group, the marketing working group or sponsorship group to deal with. We are very clearly charged, where we, as I came up with this partially on my own, but this is really what we are designed to do, is keep the conference as it is now and how the SC and the PC and the community in general wants it to be. So if we want to change the conference, that's a fine idea, but that's really outside of the purview of the marketing working group. We're supposed to keep it the way it is, or the way it's been decided to be by the community.
If you go to the NANOG 46 meeting page and you look at the sponsorship ideas, you'll get a collection, probably what Patrick wanted to put in his slide, Bill, but it's our collective working group of ideas for sponsorship opportunities. For 46. We put it for 46. And so what you could see from the sponsorship working group is a collection of ideas that could change meeting to meeting based on just some of the kinds of questions you were asking. Do we have a change in the environment where we need more collective hands-on type working space, or do we want to have another beer and gear, but not call it beer and gear, call it just, a demo space or a trade show area? We've specifically set up the new sponsorship links to be able to change meeting to meeting. There are some limits, of course, because at the same time we're going out and negotiating hotel contracts in the future for a certain amount of space. So we have to change our sponsorship in concert with the space limits that we have. But they could change meeting to meeting. It's not set in stone.
I'm just raising the flag that I think you've artificially created this idea that NANOG should not be a trade show, and therefore you're limiting what it might do and what types of sponsorship possibilities are there. Yeah. And I'm just saying you may want to question that assumption. What does that trade show really mean to you, and why don't you want to do that, or are there specific things you don't want to do? And I think that might help as you start looking for sponsorship, as opposed to just trying to find ways of getting more money for what NANOG currently is.
I repeat again that that's a great idea, but that if you want to change the way NANOG is, if you want to change the look and feel, however you want to put it, if you want to change the flavor of NANOG, that's not going to be something the working group can or should be looking at. That's more for the community as a whole, this meeting, the SC and the PC to decide. The working group was specifically designed to work within the boundaries of what those larger groups have already decided the NANOG conference should be. So as soon as the community meeting decides that we want to be a trade show or whatever else that we want to be, then the working group will work within that limitation, okay?
Yeah, one clarification and then a comment. So Patrick's absolutely right, but this forum, not particularly to Patrick on the subject of the marketing committee, but this forum is a great time to address that subject because the steering committee's here and you guys are here and we can talk about that. So Joe has brought that up several times in the past. And here's the substance of how that was brought up in the past. The question is not, do we want to or not want to be a trade show? The question is, we have a valuable resource that people who are here appreciate and continue to get advantage out of, and we like lots of things about the way it is. So the question is really, what are the changes that we are interested in or willing to accept in order to get something else out of it? Like, none of us is here to make money. Nobody makes money off this conference. So there's no sitting around saying, well, how much money can we make out of this conference? We really don't care. Nobody wants to make a bunch of money. But we do want to continue to fund the conference and continue to have a surplus fund so that we can plan things out, a year and a half in advance. And we can't do that without some money. So it's not that we don't care about money, but it's that we don't need to make profit out of this. So the question is not, should we or should we not be a trade show? The question is, what do you guys want? Like, what are the interactions with your vendors that you would like to see at NANOG that they would be willing to pay to facilitate? Like, Beer and Gear works because a bunch of people are willing to pay a bunch of money to have you come by their booths and show you some of their stuff and talk to you because you guys are valuable to them. What are the other kinds of interactions that would be useful or at least not objectionable to you guys that you would be interested in that those vendors would also be willing to pay for?
I can't believe I'm doing this because this actually hurts my own commercial interests. But there are numerous things you can do in an event that are somewhere between a trade show and sort of a quasi-academic event like you've got now. Some good examples of how you can sponsor. Sorry, I'm rocking the mic.
There we go.
Some good examples of how you can sponsor structure sponsorship packages that are more than just beer gear, more than just a break. And this is marketing stuff. Is that you actually have tiers of sponsorship. You actually have something like a demo room, but don't call it a demo room. Actually give people certain amounts of space depending on how much money they pay. It's not an exhibition limited to 10 folks, 10 companies. That make sure it's not an exhibition. But it also, and the other thing you do is you just make sure that the break, whenever the breaks are, happens in that room so that it gives people a chance to play with gear or to talk with sponsors or to, it gives the sponsors value. You can let them put in stuffers. You can let them put literature on people's seats before the event begins. And these are all things that are pretty standard at non-academic conferences that aren't actually sort of exhibitions, that aren't actually, we're not talking Comdex here. There's a whole world between. And you could productize these sponsorships and, probably make twice the amount of money you're making now, which gives you enough money to do the things you want to do without, doing something evil like turning a profit.
Excellent ideas. When should I add you to the marketing working group mailing list tonight? That's a yes. Okay, Betty.
Yeah, just to follow on what Dan and Todd and Bill mentioned, and sort of in response to Bill's statement. Keep in mind that the marketing working group was on new business. I mean, it's new since Santo Domingo precisely because like Lucy and Bill and a couple other people, when we were in this meeting in Santo Domingo, said, yes, you can try more. We said, as the steering committee, can we try things a little more commercial? And you guys said, yes, try some increments. And so the idea, Bill, isn't so much putting up a wall against, flat out against certain structures, but just not to go full tilt in some direction that may take us so far in a direction that a large amount of the attendees don't want to show up. So we're seeking what are the parameters of the increments that people are interested in accepting.
Okay, so one last call for volunteers. We have one in Dan Golding. If anybody has any, sorry, I am so badly ashamed of myself. We had Martin before anybody else. He absolutely volunteered. I'm sorry. To Martin and Dan. Anybody else? Now, just one last comment, because this is way over time. These are all good ideas. If you have any ideas, mail them to the marketing working group. And if you don't mail anything to the marketing working group, or you don't volunteer, you don't react when we send something to NANOG Futures, then shut the hell up. Because honestly, if you're not going to help us, if you're not even going to reply when we ask, then too bad, we're going to do what we want. But I'm trying really hard to get it out there and ask you guys to join us and help us. So just pitch in whatever you can, even if it's just a one-line email with an idea to the mailing list, okay? Thanks, guys.
Wow, I've got to follow that comment. Hi, I'm Betty Burke from Merit Network, and I am the NANOG project manager. So basically what that means is I get to present at the community meeting and give you an update as to what's happening. First, before we get started, I have a few standard slides that I share. I want to make sure that we acknowledge here at this meeting the wonderful relationship that we have with Comcast and their willingness to host this meeting. If any of you are considering hosting a NANOG meeting and you don't know if you're up for it or what's really involved, and you don't want to hear from me specifically at Merit, please talk to Ren. Talk to Steve Feldman, Rodney Jaffe. There are a number of folks, Josh, who have hosted NANOG, and Ren even said to me this morning, man, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. And that's what we like to try to get from our host. There are certainly things that the host has to do to be a host for NANOG. That information is all on the website, and there's an outline of the responsibilities. And I would hope that as a host, you get real kudos from the community, all of you here, and thank you for stepping forward and helping the community continue with its tradition of being able to move around the country and from vendor to vendor for hosting the meeting. I think it keeps the diversity and some of the newness of our meeting when we can have new hosts at Merit. If we had the same host in the same city, it might not be the same kind of NANOG. Might be okay, but at least for right now, because we have had hosts come forward and Merit takes on a lot of the workload to make the meeting, I think it keeps our events that we're here having this kind of discussion up to date and a little bit more current. At least that's the hope with the model that we have. I haven't put together a lot of graphics. You'll see some of the slides in tomorrow's meeting and certainly some of the publication information, but just as we were just talking about, the NANOG meeting couldn't take place without the contributors, the break sponsors, the badge sponsor that we talked about for the first time this evening, beer and gear sponsors, and our social sponsors. All of those working with the host and Merit make the NANOG meeting happen. I know many of you talk about your registration fees, but all of these folks in the background are paying a lot of money and giving a lot of support to make the meeting happen. And again, they deserve your thank you. I want to personally thank the Merit staff that are on site. Oftentimes they're the unsung heroes, so if you see them, not just me or Carol Wadsworth and Gail Turkhurst, because we're the ones getting you registered or getting the rooms that you need or someone to complain at. There's a number of Merit staff here. They actually have purple inserts in their name badge. Please, please do tell them thank you. They work very, very long hours the weeks before this meeting takes place, and they take and work unbelievable hours in the background making this meeting happen for you and doing it and trying to keep the cost down. If we were to bring in commercial folks to put this meeting together, let me tell you, your registration dollars would be much, much higher. So they definitely need your thank you, not just me. I want to make sure that you all realize here at this meeting, the first since I've been doing NANOG, that we actually have a member of our board of directors here, and that's really huge for us. I want to make sure that you all take a moment and find Brenda Hellman. She'll be introduced tomorrow as well. It shows the Merit Board commitment to what we're all doing here and to the NANOG activity, and I'm very, very excited to have her here. Don Welsh was not able to make it to the Dominican Republic. He had a little bit of an accident following my little accident. So I missed a meeting, he missed a meeting. We're both back, and you'll hear from Don tomorrow. The other acknowledgement that I want to give is the NANOG staff that are back in Ann Arbor, Michigan. They're taking care of a number of the routing issues the netcast feed out to the internet. They're monitoring the meeting connectivity and making sure that all is working well. So those folks back at home, thank you as well for making these meetings possible. The attendee, I'm running through these. Some of this information is very standard. For those of you who've heard all of this information, sorry that I'm boring you and you're going to sleep. But the nice thing, I think, for NANOG is that we have 1/3 of our attendee base here for the first time. We had the same thing happen in 3 previous meetings. So for those that are here for the first time, I hope that you find some of this information helpful. If you need more in-depth information, the website is the best resource. We have on every meeting page the attendee list. So if you're not really sure who attends NANOGs or past NANOGs, this NANOG, you can always go to the web page and find information about the attendee list. We also publish information on stats. So the population that attend NANOG, are they ISPs? Are they peering, exchange points? You know, what's the demographics of the meeting itself? And you can go to the website and you'll find a lot of useful information that will make your attendance here at this meeting, I think, a better experience. As I don't know if Dave mentioned, who mentioned the meeting survey. It's your tool. It's an important tool that's online. We're saving trees. I'm not going to print sheets of paper and put it at the table, encouraging you to write down half a sheet of paper of comments. I really, really would encourage you to take a few moments and complete the online survey. The previous surveys are also, the results are also posted on the website. So we can track that information meeting to meeting. We can cross-reference a meeting location to attendee comments. We really do pay attention. I do, and I think the SC does as well, and the PC certainly does because they ask questions. So again, another forum for you to provide your input. One of the things that I always give, and it's part of the questions that came up early as part of the NANOG evolution here a few years ago, was the financial highlights, the financial background and information. I publish a report every meeting. Previous reports are online as well. And while I don't want to belabor this, but as Patrick and Joe and Steve and Todd, we were all commenting about sponsorship dollars. It's really, really important, and at the end of the day, it's really important to Don Welsh and I as we look at Merit's budget, because the financial burden for this activity that we all enjoy rests with Merit. So we do look at those numbers closely, and we have to report to our board on those numbers. And this information on the website is our way of telling you how your dollars are being spent and what the bottom line is. Oops, went the wrong way. Sorry about that. I'm going to keep going. Here's another bit of information. It's some of the stuff that Merit does with the steering committee and the program committee. This is early data, so I can't explain a lot of it, but it's a snippet of some data that we took out of the Oracle attendee database that we maintain at Merit. And one of the questions that was asked of me a few weeks ago, because I'm the one who always sends the ping to the program committee and the steering committee worrying about the registration numbers. What's the registration trend? Do we have enough people registering for the meeting to make the meeting happen? So here's just a snippet of some of the registration data. The program committee and the steering committee have this information. I won't go into a lot of detail tonight, but if you want to look at this data or talk more about it or get more information to support the sponsorship endeavors, Todd White from Merit, who manages the Oracle database, is at this meeting as well. So we'll be able to actually talk in real time about additional information that we want out of the database. If you need to find Todd, he's also located at the RADB help desk, so feel free to share any thoughts you might have.
So that -1 at 350, that's 1 week before the meeting?
Yes.
And we're currently at 420, so thank you all who registered late for your additional dollars.
I wasn't going to highlight on that, but thank you, Joe. Again, for those of you who are new to NANOG, I'm just going to give you this brief background. Why Merit? Why does Merit host NANOG? There's a rich history of that why do we do it from the early days of Merit's role in helping to operate the National Science Foundation, which is the way in which NANOG originally started with the joint texts, and we moved through a number of phases. If you go online, you'll find that rich history, and the story is there. One of the important reasons that I say about today and why Merit is because Merit is a nonprofit organization, which is unique in the role of this very vendor or for-profit environment that surround us. If you look at the attendee demographics, you'll find that other nonprofit members here are small. It's very much a commercial enterprise. By Merit being a nonprofit and managing NANOG, we're able to keep some of the commercial aspects or sort of imbalance, we hope, out of the environment so that it's a vendor neutral. That's the word we call NANOG, a vendor neutral meeting for all of you, that it's a meeting that works for the community as a whole, because that's our purpose in helping to foster the organization. We pride ourselves on being a community-based organization. We're community-based in terms of our ownership. At Merit, we're owned by the public universities in Michigan, and we serve the community-based function of our regional network participants in Michigan. We take that commitment here to all of you in the national arena. It's what we do. We're a trusted source. I hope that many of you feel that you can speak to Don, to Brenda, to the Merit staff, to me, and that we'll tell you like it is. We don't generally sugarcoat. We're a trusted source. We try very hard to keep balance, do things that you want to be able to do, but that we do it in a way that we trust each other. The other important element that Merit brings to NANOG, and NANOG brings to Merit, because we've got to get something in return, is our educational and research and development activities. Merit has a rich history in developing tool sets and doing other research projects that come out of its partnership with NANOG. Again, you can go to the website, you can see some of that history, and we continue to look for new projects at Merit because of our base that can be used at the greater Internet. And through that, lastly, we believe in the element of knowledge transfer. Things that we learn here, our network engineers, we can take back to Michigan. We, in fact, have brought a number of folks from the NANOG community back to some of the Michigan events that we put together for our members back in Michigan. So it's all about knowledge transfer. What we do through NANOG-support. Many of you know this email list well. I don't know what to ask or who to ask, so I'm going to send a note to this list, and there's 10 or so people back at Merit that watch. We talk to all of you about hosting and sponsorship initiatives. We talk about the email list and the website, which we see as our responsibility. Those hosts are managed and supported back at Merit in Ann Arbor. We deal with all of the registration logistics. While we do it in partnership with the PC and the various SC and MLC committees, the actual tool set and how registration works is a Merit activity. And in large part, we are committed to its privacy. I want to make a comment in that the community trusts Merit to give us a lot of confidential, well, not a lot, to give us confidential information during the registration process. And we keep that confidential. We have been asked it in previous forums to, can you just, Betty, grab that group of email addresses out of your database and give them to me because I want to send them all an email message about my party on Friday. And I go, no, you know, I'm sure they'd love to know about your party on Friday, but no, we can't do that. So I want all of you to know that we take seriously the need for you to submit your information to complete the registration process, but it is trusted information and it stays with us. And that's, again, about the partnership that we have with all of you and the community. Now what you're all interested in, we get down here to the nuts and bolts. I always give an update on our previous meeting, NANOG 45 in Santo Domingo. There are many measures of what constitutes a success, and I think NANOG 45 in Santo Domingo was a success. I think the goals for us going there and going to the Caribbean outside of North America for the first time were met. We met some great new operators in the area, and I think the Caribbean really benefited from the folks who traveled with us to that area. I think the economic downturn did not help us when we went in February. The numbers will bear that out. And I think in terms of the registration and the amount of effort that I truly didn't quite anticipate in terms of staffing and all that it would take to take NANOG out of the country, we had a pretty large deficit when all was said and done. But again, huge thank yous to Terramark, who had committed early on before we could go to Santo Domingo to underwrite any expenses for merit. They contributed $46,000 to underwrite that meeting, in addition to all the things that they always do as a host. So merit ate a little bit of money. We still wound up. And that's how it goes. There's some wonderful meetings that wind up with a reserve that go into the coffers to carry us forward. And then there are some meetings that don't come out quite so well. And this was one that we really couldn't have made it without Terramark's commitment. The rolling meetings, as Joe had indicated, we know that NANOG 47 is going to be happening in Dearborn, Michigan. Merit and Arbor Networks are co-hosting that meeting. It's the joint meeting with Aaron, so it's a back-to-back meeting. I wanted to highlight for everyone there is a commitment on Wednesday morning between the NANOG Program Committee and the Aaron Board to do a joint program, so the actual NANOG meeting will go Sunday through Wednesday morning. And we'll have information on that agenda coming up. But that's a commitment going forward from here out. So no more of this confusion. Are we doing something on Wednesday or not? We are. NANOG 48, Data Foundry and GigaNews are co-hosting in February in Austin, Texas. These are in italic font, and I'm not sharing dates, although I know the dates, and I'm hoping to be able to publish them for all of you when we get back to Ann Arbor. NANOG 49, Netflix, is working on a deal in San Francisco to host us. NANOG 50, Telex, is working on a deal to host us in Atlanta.
Please note you misspelled my company name.
Sorry. So sorry.
There are two typos. Sometimes these are all put together at the...
Very last. Sorry.
Dave for the Netflix.
Sorry. I'm going quick. Someone else did these really quickly. And again, this is the commitment to hosting NANOG 51. Terramark has came forward and said they'd like to host us again in Miami. So it's really not all that bad to host a NANOG. Again, we have hotel contracts, we have dates, but we really don't like to publish them and get you hooked on your calendars until we're sure we can make them happen. But again, it's the merit commitment with our host to get a rolling calendar and get some dates out as soon as we can. We know it's important to all of you and to all of the other organizations that schedule meetings around us. Any questions for me at Merit or the staff? Don? No. Thank you.
Yes. All right, I'm all that standing between you and the reception, so I'll make this quick. Possible charter changes. Okay. All right, this is the exciting part, so I know you all waited to hear this. So we have a general election, the last meeting of every year. This is the one that we're going to have in Michigan in a couple of months. During this election, we get to vote on charter amendments. Charter amendments can be put on the ballot two ways. One is the steering committee can decide to put something on. The other one is a petition by at least 30 eligible voters or 1% of eligible voters, whichever is greater. I don't know the number off the top of my head, but we can figure it out, and we will in time. So if you guys have an idea for an amendment and the steering committee doesn't like it, you can still put it on. Okay, why? The NANOG charters are equivalent of corporate bylaws or a constitution. NANOG itself isn't really an organization, but we pretend that it is. So the steering committee acts like a board of directors. We have the charter that acts like corporate bylaws, and we all sort of have an agreement that we're going to follow them and do the right thing. Amendments are there so that we can fix errors or react to changing times or whatever. Makes sense. Before I go on this, some of the things that we've had as amendments in the past are just cleaning up basic language. There's some things that have been ambiguous or just plain wrong. We've made some processes more consistent, like the mailing list committee selection process is much more like the program committee selection process, since there's really not much reason to make it different. We've had some other interesting proposals. Like last time, as I recall, Todd wanted to become dictator for life, but that got shot down. But you know, that's the kind of thing that could be a charter amendment if you really wanted. So if you have ideas on what to do with the charter, submit your ideas on NANOG Futures. Come and talk to any of us on the steering committee. Or volunteer to be the community coordinator for this process. We really like it if there's somebody from the steering committee, that's me this time, and somebody from the community at large helping to coordinate this process. That way nobody has the feeling that this is we're a cabal and we're going to set things up to be self-perpetuating. RS is standing there because he was the wrangler last year and had such a wonderful time.
Yes, if anybody is looking for a way to volunteer to do something that really does not require a whole heck of a lot of work, because there aren't very many proposals that come in, this is a way to do that, to do your part without having to do too much.
That's absolutely right. And RS is ineligible this time since he is now a steering committee member. Basically, all you need to do is coordinate with the steering committee, collect and track proposals that come in. Last year it was all of 0. And hopefully discussion on NANOG Futures if there is any. That's it, I think. Yeah, back to you.
Thanks, Steve. So we are like 11 minutes over what the intended deadline was. We want to make sure you all have time to go ditch your gear before the 7 o'clock social. But if there's any other items that people need to bring up or want to bring up, you know, and you haven't jumped up at the microphone, do it now. You know, what do you think of trying to go back to the same city year after year, or static locations, anything like that? Tom?
Thanks, Joe. I think one of the pieces of feedback that the PC is definitely looking for out of this meeting is to find out what we need to do to get everyone to commit to coming to the meeting earlier. And we've heard, you know, Merit has done a great job of starting to program out multiple meetings ahead of time, and as Betty said, that's a large impact on Merit to make those commitments up front. So from the PC perspective, we would really like to know, what do we need to do to get y'all to commit to the meeting that much earlier? Do we need to make sure that credit cards are charged later on for some reason because of your constraints inside your budget within your organizations? Do you need a program earlier to say, this meeting is going to be really good, so I'm going to commit earlier on? What are the things that the program committee can do to make sure you guys are signing up and registering for the meeting earlier on, so that way the registration numbers look as good as big as possible, as early as possible? So talk to people in yellow badges about that, please. Thanks.
Thanks, Tom. Anybody else? is this good? Is this useful? I mean, that's the whole point of everybody being in here. We want to make sure that you all are actually getting something out of this, that we're not taking it in the wrong direction. Silence isn't consent. So, and I think I see Martin, Mr. Levy.
Yeah, is this on? So,
Yeah, it's.
No.
It might be that it's twisted from the pickup pattern. The cardioid may be facing away from your mouth.
Ew. Okay, so think about this meeting. There's been a lot less people standing up and giving grief to the program committee compared to, I don't know, 4 years ago, 3 years ago, when it was just a total bitch session. That's progress. So that's a good thing. Take that away as a job well done. So I think you're doing great. Can you do better? Sure. Can I give certain of you grief? I always do. No big deal. But yeah, this is going way better than it was 3-4 years ago.
Well, thanks, and thanks for volunteering to help out on the marketing / sponsorship, whatever it'll be called, working group. Well, I don't want to stand in the way, but I don't want to squelch anybody. I'm not seeing anybody kind of like shifting, thinking they're going up to a microphone. So, well, before we close it out, make sure does everybody know where the event is in about 20 minutes? It's the the field house. Pardon me? Yeah, the field house. It's right attached to the Reading terminal. So thank you, everybody, for attending and sitting through our going over. Thanks for contributing.